Hi everyone, and welcome to the First Five Forever Play and Child Development webinar. Unlike our normal webinars, this one has been pre-recorded. So at the end of it, I really strongly encourage you, if you have any questions, if you've got any suggestions, or you would simply like to share with us what you're currently doing within your own First Five Forever programs, please get in contact with us because we would love to hear from you. So before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay respect to their ancestors who came before them. The location of State Library of Queensland on Kurilpa Point was historically a significant meeting, gathering and sharing place for Aboriginal people, and we proudly continue that tradition here today. My name is Gina Crow and I'm one of the program officers with the Young People and Families team, and I will be delivering the webinar today. So what are we going to look at? We're going to look at, if not using early childhood development, having a basic understanding or knowledge of it, and that will help guide your programs. We're going to look at the types of play, forms of play in different ages, and resources that support play. So types of play. Types of play explains how children's play changes depending on their age or depending on their developmental stage. So the first type is unoccupied play, and this normally occurs from about birth to 6 months. And you might have observed newborn babies or young babies that come along to your programs, and they might be making a lot of movements, jerky movements with their arms, their legs, their hands, their feet. And really all they're doing is learning or discovering about how their body moves. The next type of play is solitary play, and it normally occurs from about birth to 18 months. And this is when a child plays alone with little to no reference to other children or what the adults are doing. The next type of play is onlooker play, and it normally happens from about 18 months of age. And this is when a child observes the play of other children. And they might not actually be playing themselves. And even though it's, I guess, a passive form of play, it's still really important because the child that is observing the children playing, they're still picking up on those social cues. What are the norms? What are the rules of that type of play? The next type of play is parallel play, and it normally occurs from about 18 months of age to 3 years. And you might have noticed when children come along to your program, two children might be playing with something similar and they're playing side by side. They're actually not playing with each other, they're playing beside each other. And I guess this is the final stage before children really start to connect in and play with each other. The next type of play is associative play, and it normally happens from between about 3 to 4 years. And here a child will play with other children. But the thing is, normally the children they'll not have a common goal. They'll enjoy playing together, they'll have longer attention span, they'll enjoy socializing, but they won't necessarily be working collaboratively or cooperatively. The next type of play is cooperative play. And really, this is the beginning of teamwork. Children are playing together for a common purpose. And really, this is the final developmental type of play. And this is a really important form of play because it underpins a lot of what happens in a child's later life. So if a child can play well cooperatively, if they can interact and socialize and communicate, they're often setting themselves up for success later on in life. So now we're just going to touch briefly on the 6 different forms of play. So we've looked at, I guess, types which are more related to ages and stages. These are forms of play. So the first one is pretend, and it can be called fantasy or socio-dramatic. And it includes role play, pretending to be somebody else or pretending with objects. And pretend play is really great because it can help children empathize. They can pretend to be somebody else or pretend to experience a different situation. And so it can build some empathy. It can encourage cooperation. It can stimulate imagination. It can build confidence. And it's often a great outlet for emotional expression. The next form of play is language and word play. And it's often unrehearsed and spontaneous, with lots of manipulation of sounds and words, and it's often, it's got rhythm and lots of repetitive elements. And we know that rhythm and repetition is great for language development. It helps children learn to listen, it builds vocabulary, it can encourage a love of books, it assists children in verbalizing their feelings, might stretch their imagination, and it can help develop cognitive development, that brain development. The next type of play is creative play. And creative play is really about when children get to use and experience open-ended materials. And this really encourages some of that flexibility, originality, imagination, and creativity. Creative play is great for introducing new ideas and concepts, and it provides opportunities for children to work alone and with others. And I guess when they get to work with others, that can help build cooperation and collaboration skills. And creative play is really great also for allowing children to understand and explore some of those science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths concepts. And I guess creative play is also really great for building hand-eye coordination. Now, exploratory play is about using physical skills and sensations to learn about materials. It can help build fine and gross motor skill. It's great for language and vocab development, imagination and creativity. It can encourage problem solving and questioning. And I guess it also helps children understand the world that they live in because they're exploring it. And it's great for those concepts like sorting, classifying, problem solving, and analysing. Now, constructive play is about the manipulation of objects and materials. And it's about children using those to build or create something. And they might be using natural materials or manufactured materials. It's great for fine and gross motor skills. When children work together with constructive play, they're using collaboration and cooperation. And one of the great things about constructive play is it's something that children enjoy, and it can help build persistence because children will build or create something over and over and over again until they get the outcome that they're looking for. And once again, it's introducing and supporting those STEAM concepts. Physical play, or sometimes it's called locomotor play, are about activities that involve all kinds of physical movement. But one of the key things about physical play is that it's essential for children to develop coordination, core muscle strength, arm stability, and vestibular development. And when we talk about vestibular development, that's really about our bodies being able to provide information related to where our body movement is and where our head position. And so this is really important for balance, eye control, and being able to pay attention. So those things that I just spoke about then, coordination, core muscle, arm stability, and vestibular development, they are essential skills that children need to be able to sit still. And so that's a really important thing for when they start formal education. Physical play also builds confidence and self-esteem. It helps children establish and understand acceptable risks. So when children are confident with their bodies and their abilities and they're in a safe environment, they're able to understand what's an acceptable physical risk and what's something that's too risky. It helps develop, as we were saying before, the coordination core muscle, and it can also introduce the concept of rules. So what does play look like in different ages? So from birth to 8 months, babies are using their bodies and senses through, they might be grabbing their toes, listening to sounds, responding to their carer's voice, mouthing objects, focusing on objects. So how do we support that? What resources do we use to support that? Well, I guess some of it is about setting up the environment. So consider where you might set things up. You know, are you going to have a separate area for babies so that their carers or parents feel comfortable putting them on the ground and interacting with them? Think about using toys that make sounds, toys that can be easily grasped, toys that have different textures. So I've just included some pictures of some of the resources from the community literacy program there that might be suitable to be used for children from birth to 8 months. Really what we're trying to encourage is we're trying to encourage that serve and return interaction between the caregiver and the baby or the child. So what does play look like for 6 to 12 months old children? So the babies are still exploring, they're still discovering their environment and the people in it. So they might be picking up small objects with their thumb and finger. They might be rolling over, they might be crawling, walking, smiling, laughing, reaching for objects, pushing or pulling toys. So think about toys that make noises. Think about toys that have wheels and can be pulled or pushed. Toys that allow for manipulation, balls, toys that have different textures so that they can feel those textures, and you can have conversations with them about how does it feel? Is it soft? Is it hard? Is it spiky? What does play look like for toddlers? Well, toddlers like to explore their world and work out how objects can be used. They might be walking, running, climbing, going up and down stairs. They might like to knock things over or build them up again. They like making noises, throwing a ball. But best of all, they love interacting with each other and the adults in their world. So what toys might you consider for this? So things that encourage fine motor and manipulation skills. Toys that challenge children's physical abilities. Toys that encourage problem solving. Toys that encourage language skills. So once again, I've just included some pictures here. So puppets are always really great for that development of language skills. I've got the kinetic sand there because that's great for some of those sensory, having those conversation about what does something feel like and getting that fine motor skills happening there. And I guess one of the things to think about, especially with this age group, is ensuring that you have multiple resources, because we know that children that are this age, they don't share. They find it really hard to take turns. And so having multiple things often will avoid some of the conflicts that can arise. So what does play look like for 2 to 4 year olds? So they're testing their physical abilities. They're walking, they're running, they might be hopping or skipping. They're singing songs and rhymes. Their fine motor has improved. So they're drawing, they're painting, they're playing catch, they're talking and interacting with others. They're beginning to take turns, and they're enjoying playing with others, especially children their age. So think about toys that focus on fine motor skills, toys that might challenge them physically. You know, we've got the tunnel there, we've got balls there. Toys that encourage dramatic play or collaborative play, and those type of toys will also encourage conversation and language skills. Once again, I've just included some resources from the community literacy program that you might think about using to encourage some of that play for children that are 2 to 4 years of age. So planning and preparation is always a key to ensuring successful programs. So one of the things that I ask you to think about is what outcomes, like if you're encouraging play with your program, what outcomes are you looking for? So think about that before the session. Think about what you want to achieve. Consider, is it achievable and is it realistic? Every library is different. Every library space is different. So how you set it up will depend on the space. And I guess know your audience, because if you know your audience and you know that you have a lot of babies that are attending, then what your outcome will be completely different to if you have a mixed age range or much older children. And once you consider what your outcome is, then you can base your resources around that. Plan and practice your messaging around the resources. And I guess, you know, think about what you want to say, but also how do you say it to make it feel authentic to you? So practice that. And I guess the other thing that I strongly encourage everybody to do is reflect and review on your program. Think about what worked well. Think about what you might do differently, and maybe talk to other library staff members. Seek information from them, because I guess we're all learning, and every time we deliver a program, we take something away from that that we'll use again. So thanks so much for taking the time to listen to the webinar. Please let us know if you've got any questions, any suggestions or requests. We'd love to hear from you. And just before I go, there is a list of some further reading that you might be interested in, just with regard of, early childhood development. Thanks.